Everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at Kentucky Derby contender Tiztastic. This horse is the winner of the Grade 2 Louisiana Derby, the longest of the Kentucky Derby preps, going the mile and 3/16 distance. And Mike, I think that's one of the key points about Tiztastic. It doesn't feel like distance or stamina is really any problem for this tall, lanky son of Tiz the Law.
Yeah, he certainly handled the longest distance of his career when he finally broke through with that big stakes win last time. He also jumped up to a 95 Beyer speed figure, which is putting him closer to the leaders of this division. That's for sure.
Yeah, let's talk a little more about that Louisiana Derby victory, Mike, because he certainly got plenty of pace to close into in that race. And trips had been a bit of an issue for him going back to some of the earlier prep races. He got a strange ride and trip in the Southwest where he lost position in the middle of the race, encountered some traffic on the far turn of the Rebel. But it seemed like Joel Rosario and the connection that hatched a plan last time in the Louisiana Derby to just take back and hope that the speed came back to them. And it certainly did.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, ultimately, and I, don't want to take too much away from Tiztastic because he clearly did improve last time and run the best race of his life. He also got a perfect trip in that race. And ultimately, David, I'm just not sure how strong I think that race is overall. I guess we'll see going forward. I don't really want to knock Tiztastic too much, but you were talking about, him, showing that distance isn't a real concern for him. And I'm not sure how much I'm going to buy into that view of this horse. He certainly saw the distance last time with a good trip, but I go back through any of his other races, particularly in Stakes Company. I didn't see this horse putting in, big finishes in those races that made me feel like longer distances were no issue.
I guess that sentiment stems from his physical attributes more so than what he's done on the racetrack, Mike, because when you see him compared to some of the other horses on the track, he's a big horse. Yes. He's got a long stride on him. And you saw that last time in the Louisiana Derby where it looked like he was taking one stride to every horse's two at the very end. He was staying at the end of the race. But I think what we're saying about the pace of that race indicates the trip had a lot to do with it because he was so reserved at the back of the pack in the early stages. And it was a race where the first and third place finishers were last and second to last early. So the pace really did come apart in there. So I think you have to factor that in when you're analyzing Tiztastic's performance in the Louisiana Derby. That was his first ever victory on the dirt. So he's a horse that still has to prove some things on this surface moving on to the first Saturday in May, Mike. And we'll see how much pace ultimately develops in this Kentucky Derby, because at this point in time, it doesn't feel like it's the kind of Derby that is featuring so many speed horses pointing towards that race.
Yeah, it's going to be very important to see how things shape up early on in the Kentucky Derby, because you're right. There's no guarantee that it's going to be a super fast-paced race. Not that Tiztastic, I mean, just going through his form anyway, David, yes, took him back last time into a fast-paced race, and he really improved. So maybe that's going to be their plan going forward, but it's not like he's a plotter. In his other races, he didn't have to be out the back door in those races. So maybe even if they don't go fast in the Derby, he can still get the right trip. And the good news for him is the final prep for this horse leading to Kentucky is the best race he's ever run.
We'll see if Tiztastic is a horse that can pick up some pieces on Derby Day, or potentially pick up all the pieces to land in the winner's circle for Steve Asmussen. It's been chasing that Derby victory for a long time. Well, those are all our thoughts on Tiztastic, but drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about this Kentucky Derby contender for trainers Steve Asmussen and Winchell Thoroughbreds.